Well, Jer Bear, we are here with the lovely Donna. And Donna is from Washington. So I actually discovered before the show that she lived in the Seattle area, and her husband were once upon a time diehard Seahawks fans.
Yeah.
Much like myself.
Once upon a time. So things have changed.
Oh, yeah. It's
What
all
happened?
about Dallas now.
Wow.
Way
to acclimate.
Exactly.
I'm feeling judged right now. I'm not going to lie.
I've always been a Dallas fan.
Yeah.
And I used to bet my dad every time the Redskins, whatever they're called now, they changed their name.
They're still the Redskins to me.
Don't anybody come after me for calling them the Redskins.
We will. We'll be canceled, but that's okay.
Okay. We used to always bet $50 on every game.
There you go.
But we lived in Seattle, so we thought, hey, why not? But now I'm back to my roots, being a Dallas fan.
Well, it's nice to have you back. It is hard to be a Dallas fan, too, though, because they will constantly disappoint you.
Well, we can always be hopeful, right?
Yes. This is our
season,
year. Donna. Excuse me, are you a Dallas fan?
Excuse me.
Are you a Dallas fan or Seattle fan?
You got to pick a team. Pick a side.
Okay, then I'm sticking with Seattle. I'm not going to.
Okay, he has to leave.
That's fair. No.
Already.
No, I can't. Cody's my emotional support animal, so you can't leave.
How about if Dallas wins their first game this year? We'll put this out here. This is a fun little bet. If Dallas wins their opening game this year, I will convert to the Cowboys.
Okay, we need to get that signed.
Well, it's recorded.
Okay, it's recorded.
I will not give up my Cam Chancellor jersey, though.
And we have to have some sort of ceremony, some induction ceremony.
We'll record it all. We'll put it all on the air.
We'll do a live stream.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Very good.
Well, we're sitting here with Donna. She is very sweet, very lovely. We were just talking about how, if you get an opportunity to come on the Other Brothers podcast, it's going to be a unique experience. You're going to pull up to somebody's house, and some guy in his pajamas is going to come out and say, "Welcome to the podcast. Give me a second. I'm going to take you into the backyard and we'll do this thing." And I'm sure that was a little unsettling for Donna. So
I was fine with it. I was just excited to be a guest on the show, but my husband was like, "Shed? What, in the woods? What have you done?
Smart guy.
Where are you going?
Smart guy.
I need to figure this out. I'm coming with you."
Yeah.
We're
glad Todd came.
As any protective husband should. And so we like Todd for that. Yeah, to pull the curtain back a little bit, this is, it's a family operation. I'd love to tell you that we have a high-rise somewhere, and that's where we rent our studio space, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
But it's a shed in the backyard, and we love it.
Maybe you should define it differently than shed.
I said studio. Did I say studio or did I say shed?
You said shed.
I did say shed?
You did. That's why my husband was like, "Yeah, I don't think so."
I should have said studio. And then when you walk back and see a shed, it's even more confusing.
And it's not just right next to the house. It's back in the woods a little bit. So
like
you're
it's a walk.
Read.
Yep. Well, if I can tell you, I've thought about what happens when everyone who we've interviewed has been super cool and super nice. But what happens when some crazy person comes and we're in the shed, in the studio, away from everybody? They could take us out just as easy. Anyways.
I don't.
You never know.
I got on a
Ask
rant.
the wrong question, and
That's right.
These walls may be a different color.
Yikes!
Jeez. Speaking of Mafia toys,
I
guess we can get there.
I didn't know if
I opened that door, didn't I?
You did.
Already,
you
but
did. Well, we won't pull back the curtain
in.
there just yet. But I think where we did want to start with Donna is we explained before the show just kind of the whole premise of season 2 being pivotal and people that have had to overcome some tough things and how they did it. And Donna, you reached out to Nikki and you said you had some stories to share also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What did you connect with when that invitation went out?
Basically, I've always been a helper and / healer, if you will. I always want to fix people. Mm-hmm. If I see they have a need or they're broken or they're struggling, I always want to jump right in and how can I help? What can I do? So my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and I flew home to take care of him. And I sold my business, but I was a business owner, had a staff, had a family, had kids. I just dropped everything.
We're going to circle back to that in just a minute.
and just left and stayed with my dad for about almost 4 months. He didn't choose to do the chemotherapy. He always hated hospitals. And so I just kind of stayed there with him until the very end. It was rough. And I had to learn a lot of things because, not to downplay the medical profession by any means, but they weren't giving us straight answers. They didn't tell me what kind of cancer my dad had. How long does he have to live? Is it benign? Is it malignant? They were just like, yep, he's got this, and, this is what you need to do. No, I need answers. So I finally took one of his nurses that we loved very dearly to the side, and she showed me, like, everything. She showed me his CAT scans. Like, I could see where the tumor was. The tumors were on the outside of his liver, in his liver, and they were metastasizing everywhere, and no one told us that.
Why?
And so I don't know. To this day, I don't know. Just play it straight. Tell us what's going on. And they would always sneak in the early mornings before my mom and I would get to the hospital and tell my dad, you're fine. You get to go home. But all my dad was hearing was home. I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
So they finally released him, and they said, oh, we're going to send hospice to help you. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I don't have to do this all alone. Not all hospices are this way. I would hope not. But in our case, a nurse came and took his vitals and checked all of his medicine bottles once a week. And one lady came to sponge bathe him, and that was it.
Wow.
And I had to do it all. Learn what cancer was. Learn what signs to look for. How to care for my dad. How to give him medication. His stomach started filling up with fluid.
Yeah.
Because his liver wasn't functioning correctly. And in the hospital, they would drain it. Well, he had the choice to go into the hospital as an outpatient to get that drained on a weekly basis, and he refused. He's like, I don't want any more hospitals. So I knew, once I did some research in my mind, that he's going to drown to death.
Oh.
Because the fluid just keeps going up. And, basically the night before he passed, that's what was happening. He was coughing and he couldn't breathe. And I don't wish that on my worst enemy. It was a horrific experience. And just to see someone that you love and used to look up to, I said I wasn't going to get emotional.
Yeah.
Go through something like that. And there is not a thing in the world you can do. Nothing. You just have to let it pass and hold their hand until they're gone. And then to see them gone, and you have to be the strong one in the entire family to deal with everything that comes after that. And all the preparations and holding the whole family together. And my mom and my sister, they were in denial. And they knew that my dad had cancer, but they're like, no, he's going to be fine. He's going to get better. And I'm like, he's going to die. Yeah. You guys have to come to terms with this. And they're like, no, it's not going to happen. So I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. So I slept with a baby monitor on my chest, and I got a few hours of sleep every night. I don't even know how I functioned. Because every time Dad needed me, I immediately had to run in there because he got to a certain point to where he couldn't sit up. He needed help going to the bathroom, and there was no one there to do it for him. And what are you supposed to do? You can't just let him lie there. Yeah. You have to help him. And I'm a little person, and my dad was almost 6 feet, maybe over 6 feet tall. He was a big guy. And towards the end, he was just frail in bones. And I'm afraid that I'm trying to pick him up, and if he falls, something's going to break. So I was like, I've got to figure this out. So, I did research. I looked, Googled things, read books, printed things out. And I had it all down to a science that when this starts happening, I need to look for this. When this starts happening, this is what's going to happen next. And so I knew, because no one was there to guide me. And I'm like, how do people who deal with loved ones who have cancer, how do they do this on their own? So I wrote a book a how-to book, if you will. And I never got it published because, the publisher companies wanted tens of thousands of dollars, and I didn't have that kind of money. So I have a book, a manuscript. So if there's anybody out there who wants to help me publish it, I would love that. But it basically just tells you what to look for, what to start prepping for, start ahead prepping, for like funeral arrangements. And that may sound morbid to some people, but when that happens and they are gone, you can't mentally function. You've got family members crying and people showing up, and it's just a whirlwind of chaos. And so I was ready. I had everything taken care of, ready to go. These are the numbers for the insurance people, everything I could do to help my mom so she didn't have to deal with that kind of stuff. And in hindsight, I don't think I ever properly grieved my dad because I was just in the zone.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then I think it was like a week or two after my dad passed is when I moved. I went back to Washington State to, get back to my life.
Yeah. What I was going to ask when I rudely interrupted you, sorry, was it?
Okay.
It seems to be that there always is the one person within the family who's going to bear that responsibility to keep everything together, to communicate, to manage that situation, and that was you for this.
And I was happy to.
Yeah.
I was more than happy to. And I knew the minute I heard the word cancer on the phone, I hung up. I went and found my husband and I was like, you need to get me tickets now. I need to go home. This is what I'm doing. I'm dropping everything. You'll have to figure it all out. I had a manager who ran my business and I was like, I'm leaving. Here's this, and this. You can call me. We can email. We can have weekly team meetings over the phone. But I need to go. Mm-hmm. My family is important. My dad needs me. And when my dad saw me walk in, my mom looked up and she was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm here to take over. And she just started bawling because she knew that she wasn't going to have to worry about everything, that it was going to get taken care of, and that, quote unquote, her rock was going to be there.
Sure. So where are you and your husband living at this time? Because you said you had to fly to Seattle. So where are you set up
we
shop
moved
in
to
your
Texas
business? Okay.
2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the business y'all were running down here?
I ran a cleaning business that I started from the ground up. My husband was in the military and he was gone all the time. And the military doesn't get paid near as much as they're worth. So I was like, I need to help out, pay some of the bills. We had 4 kids. We had a mortgage. And I was like, what can I do to still perform my duties as a wife and a mom and be there for the kids and still bring in an income? So I I put an ad in the newspaper to launder and iron people's clothing. I don't know what I was thinking.
Remember when you had that idea a few years ago?
And I was like, this would be great.
Yeah.
And then a gentleman called me and he was like, look, I saw your ad and I'm interested, but here's the kicker. I want you to do it at my house. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And he's like, and I want you to clean my house.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's try it out. But the reason I wanted to do it at my house is because I had 2 little kids.
Right.
My 2 youngest are 11 months apart. So it's basically like having twins. And I was like, I can't afford daycare and go to work. And he's like, don't worry about it. Just bring them. And so when he said I could bring my 2 little kids, I was like, how hard can this be? Trying to watch the kids, keep them out of this gentleman's things. And
Did you do a background check on this dude too?
no. I didn't really do a background check on you guys. I was just messing with you. I had to get back at you for the whole shed thing.
We should have. Cody has a record. It's quite interesting.
Oh, really? Well, that's a podcast for another time, isn't it?
It's we talked about the paywall. The Cobra interview will definitely be behind the paywall.
Oh, okay.
So you start this cleaning business takes off then?
Yeah. So he owned his own business. He was a plumber. And he had a very lucrative business that he had started in the back of his truck. So long story short, he had friends who had friends who had friends. And I started cleaning houses. Then I started cleaning the business owners' businesses doctors, lawyers, judges, and I just worked really, really hard and built it into a 6-figure income.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how many employees did you have working for you?
Anywhere from 4 to 5 at a time. Yeah.
Very neat.
Yeah. And I loved it. I love cleaning. I'm a neat freak. I have OCD. I loved organizing people's things. And
Do you still offer laundry and ironing services?
no, I don't even like doing my own anymore. I hate to iron, so I don't even know what I was thinking.
I know. Well, that's very impressive.
Thank you.
Going back to your father, and I think that was good, Cody, to add kind of some context there.
Well, I want to paint a picture, because
Yeah.
when you say, "Oh, I flew to Washington to take care of my dad," well,
I flew to Virginia.
Sorry, Virginia.
Yeah.
So you flew
Fleur.
to Virginia to take care of your dad. Like, what are the ramifications of that? What are the sacrifices you had to make to take care of your father? And, just to give everyone else, all 9 of our listeners, the whole picture of who Donna is and what she's all about.
Yeah.
So I think it's commendable that you're willing to drop everything and go take care of your family.
Yeah. Dad felt the same way.
Yeah.
Sure, he was very grateful.
What was
He
that,
was.
Jared? Oh, sorry. What was that like, Donna, to, I guess it's theoretically stereotypical that everyone sees their father as this strong patriarch figure, right?
Right.
What was it like to just witness that up close, his decline and that frailty and up to the end? What was that like for you, and how did that change you, Donna, for better or worse?
It was scary because I always thought that my dad was invincible. Like anything I'd ask my dad to do, he'd do it. And we had a really good relationship. We always played practical jokes on each other. Like we would send crazy little Amazon gifts back and forth to each other. And like I mentioned earlier with the betting on the football games, well, if I would win or he would win, we would send each other Monopoly money. And then one time I put like a real $50 bill inside the Monopoly money, and it took him months to figure out that there was real money in there. We were always playing, little jokes on each other. So to see him in that light, I was just like, wow, this is surreal. Like, here's this man. He was a firefighter. He was a firefighter for 40 plus years. He was a police officer.
So
A
he's
shoe
a manly
salesman.
man.
He raced cars.
Wow.
I mean, he had an extensive list of, accolades. And I read it all at his funeral, but I was just like, wow. It can take you in a moment, and you should just, cherish the time that you have with your family and not let, little family quarrels or things get in the way, because you never know. And to watch someone in their demise, I mean, yes, we are all going to die, but to watch someone decline in that way, day by day by day, knowing that there is an end, but you don't know when the end is coming or how vividly it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Because I was told that we were very lucky, and for the life of me, I can't remember the correct medical terminology, but basically, when your stomach fills up with all the fluid, when you do come to the end, there are times that it will just explode out of, your ears, your eyes, your mouth, and it just goes everywhere. And I was like, please don't let that happen.
Yeah.
Please don't let that happen. But he died very peacefully with his arms crossed. And so I went in that morning to, I was like, I need to get up. I need to go and check on him and give him his medication. And when I walked in there, I just knew.
Yeah.
And my husband can hear me on the baby monitor, and he heard me crying, and he's like, oh, no, it's happened. And he's a very stoic guy, my husband, and he never shows emotion. And he was like, what do I do? How do I help you? And I was like, I knew this was coming. You're prepared, but you're never prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was an eye-opener that, how many people go through this and suffer, and their family suffers, or how many people were left alone, like I was, speaking medically, where you didn't have nurses around the clock and you had to figure this out on your own. Am I doing the right thing? What if I give him the wrong dosage of medication? Like, I'm carrying all the weight here.
Yeah.
So it was important to me to write down all my thoughts and, write this book so people could actually read it and be like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to start watching for this. Or I need to call the doctors and not let them tell me, oh, well, he's fine. Just watch him for a few hours. No, you need to take a stand. And if you don't think you're getting the right answers, you need to go somewhere else and get your answers. And basically that's what I did.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I guess we take this for granted, that the trust in the medical industry, that there's going to be a lot of answers and support, but you're just kind of cast out to deal with it. And then it sounds like you were surprised that there was no ready resources for you to understand how to deal with it, between the medical and just grieving for the loss of this person that you're watching decline and all of that. And that's what your book is kind of about, that how-to guide for,
right,
lack of a better phrasing, of someone who might be going through the same thing. So we need to get your book published somehow.
We do, because there were already 4 people that I talked with on the phone who were going through the same or very similar situations. And I just remembered what I wrote in the book and my experiences with my dad, and I helped 4 people. Okay, this is what you need to watch for. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to help them. This is what's coming. And I hate to be very graphic, but I was graphic with people. And I was like, this is what you need to look for. This is what's going to happen. And when this happens, it's only going to be, this much of a window before your loved one passes. And they were like, we couldn't have done this without you. And I was like, I need to get the book published.
Well, I want to follow up. Do you think writing the book during this process was a coping mechanism for you? How did you, so the second part of that question is, how did you deal, and essentially all of this weight is on you. You are the rock for your family. You're a caretaker. You're still having to run a business back home. How did you deal and cope with all of that?
I wouldn't really say I had a choice. I wouldn't really call it coping. I just did it.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if I didn't, nobody else was going to. My younger sister, she was there and she would come, every once in a while. But when it was her turn to take care of Dad so I could get away for like an hour or two just to reset is what I called it, because you need to reset.
Sure.
To get coffee, have a little bit of normalcy, go out to lunch, go meet friends, just have some time to reset to come back, because your sanity is at stake as well. She doesn't do well with that kind of stuff, and she got it from my dad. Like, she can't handle that kind of stuff. So, I didn't get a break very often, and my mom was also taking care of my handicapped sister, and my mom was like, this isn't going to happen, he's going to be fine. So I was like, well, I'm just going to have to do it. If I don't get any sleep, I don't get any sleep. If I have to drink coffee, all day long to stay awake, then so be it. But right now, this is my life. This is what God put me here for. I know I'm strong enough to deal with it. And afterwards, I can break down when it's all over.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Sounds like your faith, too, may have been a support to get through that.
Most definitely. Well. I couldn't have done it without the Lord, for sure, because there was a lot of praying. And it's funny that you bring that up, because my dad was never spiritual, and we were baptized Lutheran. My parents forced us to go to a Baptist church where the Sunday school bus came and picked us up, but neither one of them went to church. And I'm like, what? There's something wrong with this picture here. Like, what is going on?
Free daycare. They wanted the kids out of the house.
Why are they making us go? They need to go. They need to practice what they preach, so to speak.
Amen.
And so my dad always said, I don't need to go to church and I don't need to be saved because I have the keys to the pearly gate. And I'm like, Dad, please. And so I was fortunate enough to have 2 people come and witness to him. And I'm pretty sure that he got saved towards the end. But I had 2 people come because I wanted to double down on that.
Yeah, for sure. Did you mention Mom was in a little, I guess maybe a bit of denial? You mentioned he's going to get better. How did you deal with that? I mean, was that also your responsibility, Donna, to kind of I don't know, break through to let her know it's going to happen? Or
It was, and she kind of had her blinders on, and she was like, "No, it's
and you can
not
understand
gonna
why
have."
you would.
Oh, definitely. Because her and my dad had been together forever.
Yeah.
And, what is she going to do? And my mom was always like the pillar of the house. She would clean the gutters. She would mow the lawn. Like, she did everything. And so it wasn't like she wasn't going to know what to do. But she was just like, what am I supposed to do when I'm alone?
Sure.
He's not going to die. And I was like, Mom, he is. So finally I just stopped arguing with her. And I just let her go on about her life and do things normally as if she would if my dad weren't sick. And I was like, well, we'll have to deal with that later because I can't deal with the both of them. And there were times I was like, Mom, you just need to leave the room because I can't deal with you and him, because he would be like, tell your mom to leave. I don't want her in here, because she would be like, you're fine. No, I'm not. And my mom would be upset if I told this story, but this is funny. So my dad had a nightstand next to him, and my mom came from a really poor family, and so she did very well by us. So her upbringing, they didn't have much. So everything that my mom got, she cherished, and she loved to yard sale and, get these cool little vintage pieces and paid little or nothing. And so she was always very careful with her furniture. So my dad had this nightstand sitting next to his bed, and I had to help him sit up, and he had to, get acclimated because he got a little dizzy and he wanted a drink of water. So I went to give him a drink of water, and I set it back down on the table with, it was no coaster. Gosh forbid if there wasn't a coaster. And my mom came in like General Patton, and here my dad is barely able to sit up and talk. And she was like, I need to get a coaster. You can't leave that there because that table's going to get ruined. And she was like, da, 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 da. And my dad's like, get her out. Like, he was getting stressed out. And I could see that. And I was like, Mom, shut up. And she's like, no, my table. And I was like, I will get you another table.
Yes.
Just leave. And I was like, I hate to be that way to Mom because I never disrespected my parents. And to me, that was a bit disrespectful, but I had to get her out of the room. So she was like, well, fine. So she left, and she comes back with this little coaster, and I yank it from her, and I put it in her. I was like, just please leave. And I shut the door. And my dad's like, what is that woman's problem? It's like a table. Like, who cares? Throw the table out in the front yard. I just want to sit my water down. And I'm like...
In the grand scheme of things, maybe the table and the coaster issue is not a big deal, right?
It wasn't a big deal to us, but to her, it was a big deal. And I still tease her about that. I'm like, Dad's dying, and you're worried about a freaking table with a water ring on it. I mean, good gosh, woman.
I'm sure she was holding on to what she wanted reality to continue to be.
Yeah.
So you can't.
So you have to put yourself in other people's positions. So afterwards, and I put my dad back to sleep and whatnot, and I was like, Mom, I'm sorry, but you got to control yourself. You're not allowed in Dad's room anymore if you're going to cause a fuss, because I can't deal with you and him at the same time. So and I'm not going to be in the middle of you two.
Parenting your parent, which I'm sure was surreal.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, well, I could just write that in the book too.
Out.
So Donna, I'm sure this experience help prepare you for other experiences in your life. I mean, or maybe I'm making that assumption, but did this experience with your father? I know you have some other things to share, and I don't know the order of the timeline of things, but did this help prepare you for other challenges in your life?
Absolutely. I think I'll always look back on it and be like, I can help this person. The minute the C word comes up in any situation, I immediately want to jump in and be like, I can help you. I say I know what to do, but there's such a big realm of cancer and different varieties of it. But people are still going to pass away. And, you still have to learn how to help people cope and what to do afterwards. Some people leave their loved ones' rooms just exactly the way that it was when they were alive. And in our instance, my mom didn't want to do that because it reminded her of my dad, and a lot of people took offense to that, and my younger sister especially. But it was important to me, before I went back home to Washington, for my mom to feel comfortable because she was going to be alone. And once the aftermath, so to speak, had died down and it was just her and my handicapped sister, I didn't want her freaking out or being upset or having a mental breakdown. So whatever she needed me to do in the house, whether it was move furniture, get things out, pack my dad's things up, some of it I took, some of it my sister took, and some of it we packed up in the attic. And then my mom moved into from her bedroom into where my dad was staying. And some people would be like, oh my gosh, like you moved into the room that he died in. But my mom wanted to be close to him, so to speak. And so it made her happy.
Sure.
So that's how she coped. So I had to get her to that point and make sure all the ducks were in a row before I left, because that was important to me. But pulling out of the driveway and going to the airport, oh my gosh, it was gut-wrenching, and it tore my heart out because my mom was just standing in the driveway, and I'm like, the next time I come back, my dad won't be here, and I'm leaving my mom to deal with this on her own, and I'm going to a different state. Like, how is she going to cope? But now she lives with me, so I moved her here to Texas, to the warm weather.
You just take care of everybody.
So
is that your nature? You mentioned you're an empath. Is that just your nature, Donna?
It's just my nature. I mean, my husband would disagree sometimes because we have a house full.
He's fine. You don't need to worry about
And he's like,
him.
hey, when are we going to have our time? Well, we can go on date night. So, but it's just my nature. If I can help people, I will help them.
Yeah. So I guess from here, so you've talked about your dad, overcoming that, being the rock of your family. What's the next part of your story you want to introduce us to?
Oh, I don't know. Why don't you just ask me what you want to ask me, and let's just get it out there.
Okay, let's go Mafia.
Okay, I knew that was coming. Let's
you don't
do
want
it.
to tease the viewer, listener a little bit more before we're...
No,
it's out.
No, we've got another question. Actually, before we ever get to Mafia. So you mentioned your son had JRA.
Yes.
What is JRA?
Yeah.
Juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And your sister's handicapped, yes? What's her handicap?
My sister has cerebral palsy. So when she was born, she had a twin, and they think that the twin was what made her have cerebral palsy, because the twin was pulling all of the energy and the nutrients.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I think they were in 2 different sacs, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But back 55 years ago, they didn't have the technology they did now. And so when she was born, my handicapped sister Melissa came out first, and then my other sister Vanessa was, of course, stillborn. And so my mom was hemorrhaging. So my mom was kind of out of it, and they had her, I don't know if it was coma-induced, but they had her heavily sedated for 3 days. And my dad planned the funeral. The fire department donated the casket, and he had my baby sister buried. And my mom came out of it, and she was like, what's going on? What happened? And I asked her this recently, why do you think that Dad did that and didn't let you be a part of it? And she was like, he told me that he didn't want me to have to suffer and deal with that. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So she has cerebral palsy, and she's a quadriplegic. For those that don't understand that, she can't walk. She can't move her limbs. She also had scoliosis. So she has a steel rod that's about this big down her spine, because back then, again, they didn't have the technology where now they can make a tiny incision and just put a little mechanism in there and you're good to go. So my mom has essentially, for lack of better words, had a baby for 55 years and had to do, use your imagination. Everything you can think of that you do for a child, she has to do for an adult. So I moved them in so I could help my mom take care of her. So my mom didn't have all of this all on herself.
Who takes care of you?
No one. Me. God. I pray a lot. I meditate a lot.
Yeah.
I don't have as much time now as I used to, as I put it, for me time.
Right.
I would like to take an hour or 2, but if I do that, then I have to turn my phone off because everybody's calling me. What do I do? Where's this? What happens if this? Somebody's at the door to fix this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can you guys just manage for a day?
Yeah.
Just a day.
Where do you think you get this, I guess this the energy and strength to just continue to take care of people. Again, we kind of asked that question too earlier, and your answer was because I have to, because somebody has to do it. And is that, I guess, kind of the same line of thinking?
It's just always been my personality. I've always been strong when it comes to that kind of stuff. I just am the way I am.
I think what's so unique about someone like you who've had these like pretty deep and heavy experiences in your life is that, like you mentioned before, you can be a kind of a counselor for other people going through some things. Is it ever kind of difficult for you when you hear somebody who's kind of sharing their difficult time in their life, where it pales in comparison to what you've gone through? Is that perspective interesting to you? That
everybody has a different perspective on things, and I never look at someone and I'm like, oh, well, I went through way worse. No.
Yeah.
I'm always like, how can I help you? This is my experience. Let me give you some tips on what I experienced, and if you need my help in any way. But I love to hear, what other people are going through. And it's the old cliche, you don't know how hard you have it until you hear somebody else's problems, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I like to be that person that people can vent to. And I always said, man, I should have got a degree in psychology.
Yeah.
I would have loved to sit on a couch and make money and say, how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Right. It's interesting. I think that's kind of the magic of this podcast. And I hope we get more than 9 listeners, but maybe 11.
Oh, I'm sure we will once they hear the Mafia story.
Totally. You're going to rocket us through. But I think that's the magic of this podcast is people who can watch or listen and understand that they're not the only people that have gone through some really tough times, and then see, hear and see the messages that are shared here that kind of give some hope, and I think that's great.
Can we touch back on my son with the JRA?
Absolutely, yeah.
So he was diagnosed and at a really young age, and he had to go through, it kind of is a chemo drug, but it isn't. He had to get infusions once a month, and he had a lot of poisons, for lack of a better word, put into his body to help this. And he also had Raynaud's disease, where his circulatory system didn't work very well, and he was always cold on top of that. And so he had these nodules on his hands, and that's how I discovered it and kind of took him in. And, one thing led to the other. And he just suffered. But he suffered in silence. He never complained. And, looking back now, I have arthritis in my hands and in my neck. And I'm like, how did this kid function? And he still has it as an adult. He just chooses not to get all that junk put in him. Mm-hmm. But what I want to say about that is, your kids better than anyone else. If you're not getting the answers that you think you should, and you're not happy, you need to keep digging and go to other doctors until you get the results to help your child. Because my son almost died because he had a staph infection in his sinus cavity, and he couldn't pull his head up, and he was crying. He's like, Mom, I have such a bad headache. Took him into the emergency room. He's probably just got the flu. Sent him home. The next night, the same thing. And I'm like, I think he has meningitis. And I just knew, because I had come across people, known people who have had that. And I was like, this is just a classic sign. Sent him home again. And I'm like, no, I know my son. Something's terribly wrong. So I called his rheumatologist. And this was a great man. He was an older doctor, great bedside manner. And we had moved him from children's because I wasn't really happy with the stuff that was going on there. Not to say that it's a bad place. I mean, they do great things for kids. But his doctors in particular, I just didn't care for. I wasn't getting the results that we needed. And it was just so far to drive. So this doctor was just great. And he was like, what's going on? And I told him, and he's like, let me make some phone calls. So he made some phone calls. My son was in surgery the next morning, and he had such a bad sinus infection. Let me step back a bit. When you have JRA and you're getting all these poisons pumped into you, you don't have an immune system. So he cannot fight off colds, flus like we can. So you have to be very careful. He almost has to be like in a bubble, if you will, a plastic bubble. So his sinus infection turned into a staph infection. And if I hadn't have pushed and gotten him in to get that emergency surgery, he would have died.
Wow.
And so to say all of that, fight for your child. Just because someone with a medical degree and an MD behind their name, they don't always know the best thing for your child.
It's not as powerful as that mother's intuition, is it?
Exactly. You're the mom. It's your job to take care of this child. Don't always listen to something. Go with your gut. Because if I had have listened to what those ER doctors had told me, my son wouldn't be here today.
So the medical community really hasn't impressed you in your life, and most of the time
they
it's
have
kind of failed.
not been a friend. So I kind of turned to holistic approaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got, Cody?
Man,
Incredible.
I know. I'm just listening in here. I'm like, wow, geez, she's done it all. And
How is your son now?
He still suffers a bit, but he does what he needs to do.
He's living on his own, has his own family.
He's living on his own, and he's, trying to do the best that he can, and, he still doesn't complain. I'll ask him, and he'll tell me, and he's like, yeah, I'm really hurting.
Yeah.
I'm really, really hurting. And in Washington, it's damp there all the time, so
Yeah.
I can't get this water open. Oh, there
Did
we
you get it?
Yeah.
Well, good.
well, I think what I was, well, I guess I shouldn't say ask, because I didn't have a question. It was more of a statement, more of an observation. Is it seems like all these things you've been through, it all comes down to decision making. Do I want to be a victim, or do I want to take care of business? And you've always been that I'm going to go and I'm going to take care of business type. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to me, that's very inspirational, because again, we all have the ability to make our life whatever we want it to be. Mm-hmm. It just, we have to make the right choice, and then we have to work towards that. And you've proven that you can run a successful business, still take care of family, and play doctor at home for your son, take care of everything. I'm just in awe of someone who can do all of this and talk about it.
If there's anyone qualified to say, woe is me in my life, this is not what I expected in my life, and I have to deal with all these things, it would be you. And I know if it was me, I would at least have some times where I would, wallow in my sorrows of why me, woe was me.
It's hard. I'm not going to say it was easy.
Yeah.
But I've always been the type, I don't break down in front of people, especially my kids. And so, at the end of the night, of course, you're stressed out, you're tired, you're like, how am I going to make it the next day?
Somehow.
My husband has seen me cry, but he's probably about the only person, I wouldn't let people see that side of me, because I've always felt that I need to be the strong one, and if I lose it, then everybody else is going to lose it.
Yeah.
I guess the other area I kind of want to explore, and of course we have editing tools if we need to take any of this out. But no, I'm just sitting here. So, this is what, the 7th or 8th interview we've done? 7th,
I believe.
7th. And every interviewee up to this point has kind of talked about, well, I made these poor decisions and it led to this and I had to overcome that. It sounds like you've been pretty good at the decision making in your life, and I guess man, I am just not doing it right now.
No, it's a good point.
Okay, we'll edit it. Do you feel like it's weird sometimes that you do everything right and still have hard things to go through? Is that discouraging?
Well, I wouldn't say I do everything right. It's just there are some things that I knew that I had to do, and there are some things that I've made mistakes on. But if we didn't have mistakes, we wouldn't learn from them.
Yeah.
And I've always taught my kids that if you make a mistake and you've done something wrong, I'm going to march you to whoever person you made the mistake to, and you're going to make it right immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to touch on that. I'm not perfect.
No,
and not everything has gone right in my life. There are times I look back and I'm like, would I do it differently? Probably not.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting to you, and honestly, Cody, that was a very astute observation, because everyone we talked to has had some level of self-inflicted consequence. And I'm sure you have some things, right? But what you shared with us are just things that, just external things that happen to you, right? They're not a result of decisions or poor decisions you made. And so it's unique. You are unique in that you've overcome these things or pushed through these things, despite you having an element of, I kind of made my bed, so I need to get through it.
Right.
You just met things where they were and pushed through, which is incredible.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I do have a question now.
Please.
Thank you for saving me.
You're welcome.
Did that ever strain your relationship with God, going through those tough things, even though you were active in a church and doing what you thought he wanted you to do?
That's a good question. All of us at one point in time question God.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? Why me? And God and I, we talk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, you're going to put this in my path. Give me the strength I need and just open doors and show me what I'm supposed to do. Please don't let me screw this up because people are counting on me. And there are times I'm like, I just don't know if I can do this another day. And I just take it one day at a time.
Yeah, that will be a wonderful clip. That's just a beautiful way of putting it. Okay, when do we talk Mafia?
Whenever you're ready. I
Okay.
mean, we brought it up.
Give me the backstory to Mafia. You can't just say Mafia. So, are you inducted into the Mafia? You have family in the Mafia. You ran the business. You did laundering services for the Mafia.
Oh,
It
he
tied
had
in.
to bring up the laundry. No.
Just saying.
Is that how you launder
They
money?
also
You have to
they
clean
also
it?
need their laundry done, if you know
Yes.
what I mean.
No, but I have
And is this
seen the laundered money.
Is this why Todd isn't here? Because he can't listen to your story about the Mafia?
Todd never believed me. And then when my dad passed and my dad's family came, he was like, oh my gosh, I get it now. Because he actually sat and talked with some of the elders
Yes.
in the family, and he was blown away. And I was like, okay, we've been married how long and you don't believe me? Why would anybody make this kind of stuff
Right?
up? I mean, hello.
Yeah.
So
Well,
So dad was in the mafia or had family?
my dad's sister married into Mafia.
gotcha. Now, can you take advantage of this? Like, if you have some
If
scuffles
I
in
need,
life or some...
if
there's
I
some-
need some things done, I might
Exactly.
be able to make a few phone
We'll just
calls.
say it like that. If you need some things done.
If you need
Yeah.
a favor called in, you had
Sure, I'm sure I could
And
make
I
it
think
happen.
that you and I need to get really good friends with Donna.
people. Yeah, absolutely.
Just in case maybe we need some things done.
You never
We can
know.
call in a favor. Well, that's awesome.
Sleep with the fishies. That's all
Yeah,
I learned
you
from
won't
the
be
mafia.
sleeping with the fishes, let me tell you. They'll
I
never
just got
find
chills. It
Right?
is cold in here, but I
It
also
is.
got chills. Well, Donna, what else do you want to bring to light as far as your experiences in life? And, again, we talk about the people that may be watching or listening. What could you talk about that might connect with them or give them some more hope or
Oh gosh, I don't
counsel,
know.
as you are a counselor now?
I actually took a college course in counseling because I wanted to be a biblical counselor, but I don't remember why, but I never finished it. I hated school.
School's hard. Man, school sucks.
I was
hate
like,
school, too.
math? I don't know.
But you would be excellent at it. You'd be
Not at
excellent.
math.
No, not
No.
math.
Oh gosh,
But
no.
a biblical counselor, I think you'd do well.
Oh, probably. I like to help people, so. I can't think of anything other than I was never one of those hippie, holistic people. I thought that was just dumb.
Sure.
And then I started getting vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you have the dizziness.
I have that
and your
every now and then, yeah.
Really? I can help you out with an oil. I have an oil for that.
Okay.
And the doctors couldn't help me. And they were like, we don't know what it is. We don't know what's wrong with you. We're going to put you through physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's that? anybody listening, if they tell you they're going to put you through physical therapy for vertigo, don't do it.
Did they move your head around,
Yes,
lay you
they
down?
lay you upside down and they yank you up
procedure?
and they turn you
Yes.
sideways and then they make you hold your eyeballs open so
Yeah.
they can watch your eye movement.
And you just feel sick.
I was like, and then you have to take a nausea pill
Mm-hmm.
before you go. And that should have been a red flag for me. Why are they making me take a nausea pill? Yeah, so that didn't help me. It only made me worse.
Yeah.
So I was like, something has to be done because I can't function. There was a period in my life when my kids were younger and I couldn't walk. You can only stay focused on what's in front of you. You can't look down. You can't turn around and you can't drive because you can't look back and forth. And so I had to have people drive me somewhere. And this went on for a very long time. And I was like, something's got to give. So finally I was like, I'm just going to have to figure out something on my own. So I had a friend refer me to another friend who came to my house, and for lack of better words, she was like this oil guru lady, and she brought all this stuff up, and I'm like, please, like,
Yeah.
what are these dumb things gonna do? And so she made me up this blend, and she's like, put it behind your ears, and go to sleep and let me know how you do. So every night when I went to sleep, I'd have to prop my head up because if I laid down flat, the room started spinning.
Yep.
And then if I would get up in the morning, I had to basically lay straight, carefully put my legs over, carefully get up.
Do you know how therapeutic this is for me? Because every now and then I have these waves, and nobody really understands what it's like.
I
So,
totally
sister,
understand.
I'm with you.
Okay, good, because
Okay.
my husband was like, it's all in your head.
So
well,
you put-
exactly. It's in my head.
So you put snake urine behind your ear.
I did. I put the
Gotcha.
snake serum back there, and I got up the next morning like I always did, very carefully, like sat up on the bed. I'd have to sit there for a few minutes until I stopped spinning and focus on something, stand myself up. The trick is you have to move your feet and then you move your body and you have to look where you're going.
Yeah.
So that morning I got up, did all of that, nothing happened. I wasn't dizzy. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, So my husband is in the shower and I'm like, you'll never guess what, I'm not dizzy. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I put that stuff behind my ears. And he's like, that stupid witchcraft stuff? And I was like, yeah, that stuff. And he was like, nuh-uh. And I can't believe that I did this, but I like turned myself upside down, was shaking my head back and forth. And
Test
with
it.
vertigo, you can't do that.
No, because it'll be hours before you're back
Oh yeah,
to normal.
I mean, you suffer for hours,
Yeah.
and nothing was happening. I'm like, woohoo! Finally! So I was like, I'm gonna start selling this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna help everybody I can, and that's what I did. I got into 100% pure essential oils, and I started mixing up this stuff and handing it out to people who had vertigo. And then here's your sample. Try it. If you like it, then, you can buy it from me. And people were like calling me. Still to this day, I have people, hey, can you bring me some of that? I'm sorry, I don't live in that state, but I can mail it to you. But it worked. And so then I was like, there's something in these oils. So I was like dumping out all my medications. And I was like, I'm going cold turkey. And my husband comes in and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't have this stuff anymore. And he's like, you're insane. And I'm like, maybe. But if that one thing can help me, and it didn't cure it.
Yeah.
It just helped me with my symptoms because I bought those little wristbands.
Yes, the pressure bands, yeah.
Have you tried the patch thing behind your ear?
Yes, didn't work.
That stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
But these oils, I was like, man, this
We'll
is
talk
awesome.
later. I might have to try some.
I'll have to make you up a blend.
I had to tell a good friend of mine that I can't go on the boat in a couple weeks
You
because I'm too
can.
scared. But maybe with your
You
magic
can
oils.
with the oils because I could never get on a boat. And if I did, because in Seattle, we used to ride the ferry. And I dreaded going on the ferry because I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
So I would have to go up front and I'd have to face the way that the ferry was going in order for me to not be motion sickness. Because anywhere else, I'm like, I'm going to throw up. Yeah. I even got seasick on my husband's aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It sucks,
so yeah,
man.
you can.
Okay. Well,
There's
good.
hope for you.
That's
Great.
And I think we've learned, I think the undercurrent of this episode is that the medical industry is a hoax, man.
That's another time and another podcast. We don't want to get canceled this early, so
We'll make
Man,
the protection
well,
from the mafia.
We
Yeah.
this has been a recent tiff in the Calloway household.
Yeah.
Since my wife is a registered nurse.
I don't want to cause any tiffs.
You should have prefaced that before I started running
no,
my mouth.
No, it's okay.
I'm a huge fan of Cody's wife. So
We've had our own little spats over doctors and that, so I completely understand.
I'd like to retract my statement that the medical industry is a hoax, because it's not.
There's
good medicine there.
There's good people
But
and there's
listen
bad
to your
people.
intuition. Be open to other things,
Yeah.
maybe, but be careful. Right?
Yeah, be careful. Don't, stop all your medications just to try
Right.
some oils, You have
Yes.
to do it in moderation.
Yeah.
Which I didn't.
Don't
but...
go into a diabetic coma because you think you can rub
Right.
some oil on your forehead and you'll be good.
Right.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works. No.
Okay.
It's like every other, Phil. You can't blanket statement and say all cops are bad. Yeah. Well, yeah, there are some jackass cops out there, but there's also really good people that want to protect their community, much like your father was one of those good men.
Right.
There's good doctors, there's bad doctors.
And look,
it's whatever.
no offense, Cody, but between you and your wife, she is way smarter.
Oh, yeah.
Way more attractive.
Oh, yeah.
Way more trusting. So I defer to her.
Yeah, I would too.
Good save. Good save.
Good save.
Well, Donna,
she won't beat you up later.
She can. I probably deserve it.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No.
I'm supposed to take advantage.
How did this happen?
I don't know. It's a slippery slope.
It is.
I'm not even going to be with the fishes. Donna said that's not where they put you with the
they'll
fishes.
never
Get the
find you.
chills.
Well, Donna, your stories are just incredible, and just getting to know you for the hour. It's
been an hour already?
It's got. Well, let's
Wow.
see. I'm having a good time, but it's
Me
probably
too.
close to an hour.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Yeah, I think what's really intriguing to me again is that you decided that you're not going to be a result of your consequences, meaning that you've had plenty of opportunities to just be like, the world is just out against me, and I can't keep my head above the water, and it is what it is, so woe is me, and I'm just gonna kind of go through life with this chip on my shoulder, but you're so resilient, and you've just met each challenge, and you mentioned that has come from both just because you had to, like there's no other no choice, I guess, and you found some I would assume your faith allows you to find some higher power and some trust in something bigger than yourself. And I just pulled to you. I don't really have a question. It's just more of a statement. I just wanted to tell you how much I admire you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I agree, because I will disagree that when you say there wasn't another choice, there's always another choice.
Yeah,
you
true.
could choose to turn your back on your family and say, not my monkeys, not my circus, good luck. But you didn't. And I find that, again, I use the word commendable, but that's awesome. You're a very good person to care for your family like that and make the decisions, make the choices that would allow you to be a blessing in their life and put you in circumstances where you were able to grow and able to learn and help more people.
Right.
It's not always the way we want to learn things, the way the Lord teaches us. But sometimes he puts us in these hard places.
He does.
We learn and we come out better and more like him on the other side of it. And it's just fun and neat to sit across from someone who can calmly and eloquently talk about some of their struggles and just give hope to everyone else for.
Yeah, and the world needs healing, and God is going to use people like you to tend to his other children to help them too. So it's a beautiful thing. Now tell us some embarrassing stories about Todd since he's not here.
Oh gosh.
How did you and Todd meet?
We had mutual friends and he went into the military, and when he came back, this was when I was in Virginia, they were stationed in Norfolk. When he came back with one of his buddies, we always had these parties with all of my high school friends, and he came back with one of my high school friends, and I was like, "Oh, that's a neat guy." I used to call him new guy, and we kind of knew each other, and then we just kind of sort of started dating. But he became friends with my group of friends.
Yeah.
So.
And the rest
That's
is
how we
history.
met. Yeah, and the rest is history.
We'll have to get him on the show.
Oh, please
Get the
don't.
real story. Because
Oh,
Donna's
no.
holding back. I could tell. We're going to get the real story with Todd.
Glossed over a few things. That's okay, though.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Sure.
If can we give her
How do we
final
get the book
message?
out? Well, yeah, let's get
Yeah,
her...
how do we get the book out?
Let's
That's what
talk
I
this
want to
quickly. Let's figure out how we get this book out, and then we want to give you the last 5 minutes or so if you want to say anything more. So, do you have a title, a working title?
I do.
And where in the book will the other brothers be? Is that chapter 7 or 8 or?
What other brothers?
Are we a sub note? What do they call that?
Sure, I could put you in there. I'm sure.
Just
on the preface page.
Just put us in the thank you notes.
She's
Thank
putting
you
us
for...
on the hit list in the back of it.
Well, if I put you on the hit list, then I won't be able to come back now, will I?
We need you back. We
Yeah.
need you back. No. Is there a name to this book?
There is. It's called The Man of 712.
The Man of 712.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so listeners, contact us so we can put you in contact with Donna to see if we can get this thing done.
That would be awesome.
Can you explain the title? I know it's got some meaning.
Okay,
Meaning.
Thank
so
you for
the
asking. I
reason
thought I was
I
dumb.
chose the title is because my dad grew up in this house in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and the address was 712.
Okay.
And he loved that house. And from that day on, he always played the number 712 faithfully every day in the lotto. And every time he forgot and didn't play it, the number hit.
Yeah.
And so 712 was his number. And so I was like, okay, that's what it's going to be called.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's get it made. Okay.
Let's do it.
Last opportunity for you. What do you want to tell your family or your friends or
The world.
the world?
Don't hate me for telling stories or mentioning the Mafia. I mean, we didn't even go
Leave
into
Donna
detail about
alone.
any
She-
of that. So
She takes
I
care of
think I'm
everybody
safe.
in life. Just leave her alone.
Yeah.
She's
Give
good.
her a break.
Yeah, if anybody wants to know how to, use oils and live
do you-
holistically,
Do you have a business
Yeah,
centered
can we
around
plug your
this?
business?
it's doTERRA essential oils.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And you're just a consultant with them?
right.
That I think one of my friends was doing that once upon
I
a
did
time.
it. I was really into it in Washington, but then when I moved out here, people were like, "Ugh, oils? What are you talking about?" And so it was really hard for me, and I miss that. I miss mixing up blends, and somebody says, "I have heartburn. Here, try this. This helps. My back is killing me. Here, try this. This helps." Because a lot of people don't want to use medications, or they're already on certain medications, and if they take another one, it's going to, have
Yeah,
that side effect. So people are, now more than ever, people are looking for more holistic ways to help themselves. So.
What would you mix up for Cody for his flatulence issue?
We have a blend called Digest Zen that you roll across your belly, and it helps.
There you go.
That sounds lovely.
That does.
Yeah.
I will roll it across your belly.
Thank you.
You're
I was going to
welcome.
ask if you do the
Gosh.
application for me.
You two must be, related or something.
No, it's a odd coupling.
It is. We've just been friends a long time.
Yeah. Why was there pain in your voice when you
I know. He
referenced
took a
we've been
big
friends?
sigh.
We've been friends for such a long time.
Just hurts sometimes to
Behind
think
the paywall.
about
Behind the paywall.
the paywall.
Okay.
What would life be like without the Jer Bear? It just hurts so much to think that there was once a time where this wasn't going on.
Yeah, you were happier.
Something like that. Not even kind of. All right, so you do doTERRA.
I do.
People can get in touch with you for all their essential oil needs.
Correct.
It does help vertigo
Oh, yes, it
and
does.
gas.
And let's get this book done.
And let's get The Man of 712 to a
Aw.
publisher.
I would love that.
Donna, thank you. You're incredible.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, we're terrible at the dismount. So I don't
We just did it.
know. Did we?
Yeah, and you kept talking.
Damn it. Okay, we're done.
Okay.
All right. Technician Carson. We don't have a nickname for Carson. We're really into nicknames. Intern Carson. Take us out. Sing us our outro song, Carson.